College football season is back. The stadium lights are on, the marching bands are loud, and someone is waiting to paint their chest blue and gold in 50-degree weather. You've got Alabama fans screaming "Roll Tide," Auburn fans chanting "War Eagle," and that one guy at Michigan State still crying over last year's fumble. Saturdays are for tailgates, trash talk, and pretending that your team's quarterback actually knows how to throw a spiral. But while everyone's busy arguing about who's going to the playoffs, we're about to explore a different kind of college experience, the kind that doesn't involve touchdowns or beer pong. I'm talking about the dark, creepy side of college campuses. Yeah, while you were busy trying to ace your midterms, something might have been creeping down the hallway of your dorm. So while the football teams are out there fighting for glory, there's another game being played in the shadows. Haunted classrooms, dorm rooms that should have been exorcised years ago, and libraries where the dead never stopped cramming for finals. If you thought campus life was stressful, try sharing a dorm with a ghost who doesn't understand the concept of quiet hours. From ivy-covered lecture halls with a dark history to dormitories where students swear they've seen something standing at the end of their beds, these colleges are not for the faint of heart. And trust me, you won't find this on the brochure during your campus tour. Beautiful landscaping, great faculty, and oh yeah, a ghost that likes to rearrange your furniture. So grab your team jersey, your lucky socks, and maybe a Bible, because today we're counting down the top 10 most haunted colleges in the U.S. By the time we're done, you'll be questioning whether you're ready for game day or a seance. And remember, folks, college is all about making memories. Just make sure they're not paranormal ones. Let's dive into the haunted halls of higher education, where the only thing scarier than student loans is what's waiting in the shadows. Are you ready? Hit my intro. Are you ready for some haunted history? Welcome to Screamville. Once upon a February night in 1908, a young student named Condi Cunningham and her roommate decided to whip up a late-night treat in their dorm room at the Alabama Girls Industrial School, what we now know as the University of Montevallo. They had the brilliant idea to make fudge using a chafing dish fueled by alcohol. Things were going smoothly until the curfew bell rang, sending them into a panic. In the chaos, alcohol spilled onto Condi's nightgown, and the next thing anyone knew, the fabric ignited. She bolted from the room, screaming through the hallway as students and staff tried to put out the flames. They even rolled her up in a carpet, but the burns were too severe. Condi passed away 2 days later, leaving behind not just a heartbreaking story, but the beginnings of a chilling legend. Her story didn't end with her tragic passing. Not long after her death, students began to notice something strange. The image of a girl's face appeared burned into the wood of the very door to Condi's room. Every time they replaced the door, the face would mysteriously return, like some macabre autograph she just couldn't stop signing. Eventually, they sealed the room with a metal door, but even today, whispers say the face sometimes reappears, as if Condi wants to make sure no one forgets her story. People who live in or near the old dorm swear they can still hear the sound of running footsteps late at night. Sometimes, faint screams echo through the hallway, the kind that send a chill down your spine even on Alabama's hottest summer nights. Some students joke that it's just Condi trying to perfect her fudge recipe in the afterlife, though no one's brave enough to actually check. The ghostly activity doesn't stop there. Over in King House, the oldest building on campus, students and staff tell stories about Edmund King, one of the early landowners of Montevallo. They say his ghost can be seen wandering the grounds with a lantern, still digging for the gold he supposedly buried to keep it safe during the Civil War. Imagine being that committed to your money. Even in the afterlife, Edmund's still out there like, "Not today, Union soldiers." If you wander past the small cemetery near King House at night, you might spot glowing orbs floating among the trees, or strange lights darting between the graves. Some say it's Edmund keeping an eye on his treasure, while others believe it's the spirits of the King family paying a ghostly visit to their old home. Either way, it's enough to make anyone walk a little faster on their way back to the dorms. Then there's Reynolds Hall, which has its own share of eerie happenings. Built during the Civil War era, the building was once a hospital for Confederate soldiers. These days, students claim the portrait of Captain Henry Reynolds seems to follow them with its eyes as they walk by. Take the painting off the wall, and it somehow reappears by morning. Add to that the sound of heavy boots pacing the hallways at night, and you've got yourself a ghost who takes his patrol duties very seriously. Not to be outdone, Palmer Hall has its own resident prankster. Students and faculty have nicknamed him Trummy, after Dr. William H. Trumbauer, the architect who built the building but didn't get his name on the cornerstone. Apparently, Trummy wasn't too happy about that slight and decided to stick around. He's been known to make noises during rehearsals and even predict college night winners by swinging a wooden baton, proving that even ghosts can be dramatic. With all this paranormal activity, it's no wonder the University of Montevallo has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted campuses in the country. Between the girl on fire, the gold hoarding ghost, the painting with the judgmental stare, and the theater-loving spirit, this school could host its own supernatural reality show. Of course, all these ghost stories haven't just made for great campus lore, they've also sparked some changes. After Condi's death, the school improved safety measures and made sure students were better cared for, though one can't help but wonder if Condi would be satisfied with the upgrades. Maybe she's still here because the fudge recipe just wasn't finished. So if you ever find yourself walking through Montevallo after dark, keep your eyes and ears open. You might hear footsteps running past you in an empty hallway, see a shadow with a lantern digging near the orchard, or feel the gaze of a portrait that swears it's not staring at you. Whether you're a believer or not, the ghosts of Montevallo have a way of making sure you leave with a story to tell, and maybe a reason to keep your nightlight on. Penn State looks cozy in the fall. Crisp leaves, blue and white scarves, the world's happiest valley, until you realize the campus has more ghosts than a late-night group project. The lore starts right in the heart of University Park, an on-campus grave, a murdered student in the library stacks, and a parade of specters who apparently never got their diplomas or just really love tuition-free housing. First, the headliner of campus legends, Betsy Aardsma, a 22-year-old graduate student who was stabbed once in the chest in the Patty Library stacks on November 28, 1969. The case remains unsolved, and students still swap stories about cold spots, sudden chills, and glimpses of a young woman between the shelves, as if the stacks themselves remember. If your book suddenly thuds off the shelf behind you, that's either gravity or the world's rudest footnote. Haunting at Penn State is practically part of the walking tour. Start by Old Maine's lawn, where a little stone marks the old limestone quarry. The campus workhorse, literally, was Old Coley, a mule who hauled stone to build Old Main and became such a legend that the university kept his skeleton. Wherever his bones were relocated over the years, people swore they heard phantom hoofbeats and braying. He's the only ghost who might try to register for animal science. Cross to Schwab Auditorium, and you hit a ghost triathlon locals affectionately call Schwaboo. Folks say George Atherton, Penn State's 7th president, who is buried on campus next to Schwab, still checks on the place. Some legends add Charles Schwab himself, and even a Revolutionary War soldier striding across the stage like he missed his cue. If you hear footsteps during a dress rehearsal, it might be a note from 1906, Project to the Balcony. Across the street is Old Botany, the oldest standing building with its original facade and the setting for a spectral love story. People say Frances Atherton, George's widow, appears in an upstairs window gazing toward her husband's grave. Eternal Devotion, Campus Edition. On crankier nights, prankish forces reportedly roll up carpets or shatter glass, which is either poltergeist behavior or finals week energy with better VFX. Stroll the Patty Mall, and you'll pass what used to be the Ghost Walk, a pine-lined path students once avoided after dark because of a story about a class-bound student who froze to death in a sudden storm and never stopped showing up for class. Imagine being so dedicated you're still punctual after passing on. Meanwhile, living students are like, Canvas ate my homework. One Norway spruce from the original walk still stands behind old botany, an Instagram for ghosts. Atherton Hall keeps its own roll call. Along with Francis drifting through corridors, residents whisper about gumshoes, a stern house mother from back in the curfew days who patrolled in squeaky sneakers and, according to legend, still prowls the halls at night looking for contraband. Like fun. Schreyer honors students swear they hear her steps when procrastination peaks, motivation by haunting. Runkle Hall earned whispers of a late 80s, early 90s poltergeist outbreak, lights flicking, objects shifting, startled RAs suddenly discovering pressing business elsewhere. Was it hype fueled by poltergeist marathons and bad pizza? Possibly. But if your poster peels itself off the cinder block at 3 a.m., you're allowed one dramatic gasp. The campus folklore files keep that one stamped unresolved but spooky. Back at the library, Betsy's story anchors the campus's darker side. Investigations named suspects over the years, but no one was charged. Students still report an uneasy hush in the Level 2 core stacks, like the building holds its breath. It's the kind of place where you suddenly remember why study groups were invented. Safety in numbers, and someone else to go first down the aisle. Put it all together and Penn State reads like a ghost story anthology. A mule who won't clock out, a presidential couple who never stopped watching over campus, a stage with a rotating cast of the dearly departed, dorms with night patrols from beyond, and a library mystery that still shivers the spine. Happy Valley, it turns out, is happy and haunted. So mind your manners, return your books on time. And if you hear hoofbeats in the hub, just say, "Good boy, Coley," and keep walking. Joe Brown Hall at the University of Georgia is your classic old college building, tall, brick, and full of weird little quirks. But the strangest of all, the infamous Stairway to Nowhere. It's a staircase that looks like it has purpose when you first see it. You start climbing, thinking maybe you'll find a lounge, a study room, or a professor's office, only to discover that the steps end at a solid wall. And just to make it creepier, there's a picture of a hallway hanging on the wall where the door should be, like someone said, "Hey, let's make the students question reality for fun." The story of how this architectural oddity came to be isn't exactly cheerful. Back in the 1970s, tragedy struck the dorm. A student died in one of the rooms, and when his body was discovered, it was in such bad shape that the university sealed the room off. Instead of renovating or reworking the space, they simply bricked it up, leaving the staircase that once led to that room dangling there with nowhere to go. It's the kind of renovation you'd expect from someone playing The Sims after a long day. It didn't take long for the ghost stories to start. Whispers of the student spirit lurking around the building spread across campus faster than rumors about who was dating who in the football team. People said he had taken his own life, and that the smell of decay never truly went away, so they just shut the place off. Whether or not that's true, the legend grew until the staircase wasn't just a weird quirk of architecture. It was a landmark of UGA lore. Students who've climbed the stairs swear it's unnerving. You're walking up, half expecting the mystery to unfold, only to realize you're standing face to face with a wall, staring at a photo of what looks like the continuation of a hallway. Imagine being sleep-deprived from cramming for finals, coffee in hand, and climbing those steps only to feel like you just got pranked by the building itself. The ghost probably sits back laughing every time. Then there are the ghostly reports, cold spots, footsteps when nobody's there, and lights that flicker without explanation. Some staff members say they've heard knocking on the bricked-up wall in the dead of night. One janitor even joked that the ghost is still on a tight class schedule because the automatic doors in the building open at the same time every afternoon. If that doesn't make you want to skip your 8 a.m., nothing will. Like all good college ghost stories, the tale has evolved over time. Some versions insist it was a tragic suicide, others say it was a freak accident, and then there are the bizarre ones that involve more unusual circumstances. Whatever the origin, each retelling makes the story a little spookier, a little funnier, and a little more confusing, which is exactly how college life should be. Today, the Stairway to Nowhere is a staple of every haunted campus tour. Freshmen get told the story like it's a rite of passage, and alumni love to bring it up during reunions, right after reminiscing about the glory days and questionable cafeteria food. It's spooky, sure, but it's also a little funny that the university just shrugged and said, "Yeah, let's keep the stairs. What's the worst that could happen?" In the end, the staircase is more than just a dead-end set of steps. It's a strange little piece of campus history, a reminder that college is full of mysteries, some explained, some not. And if you're brave enough to climb it at night, just remember, if you hear someone whispering, "Don't go," it's either the ghost or just a senior trying to haze you with a good scare. Currier Hall at the University of Iowa is the kind of dorm that looks charming and historic during the day, but gives you just enough of a spooky vibe at night to keep things interesting. Built in 1914 as a residence for women, it was named after Amos Noyes Currier, a classics professor and librarian, and his wife Celia, a math instructor. Over the years, Currier expanded with multiple additions, and by the 1970s, it became a co-ed residence. These days, it houses over 600 students, complete with modern perks like computer labs, a fitness center, and even a baby grand piano for the musically gifted, or those trying to impress a crush with a shaky rendition of Chopsticks. Aside from its historic charm, Currier made history in 1946 by welcoming 5 African-American women as residents, challenging housing segregation on campus at the time. For a building that's been around for more than a century, it's seen its fair share of milestones, late-night study sessions, questionable cafeteria food, and yes, ghostly happenings that have turned it into a paranormal hotspot for students with a taste for spooky stories. One of the most famous legends tied to Currier Hall is about 3 roommates on the 4th floor who, according to campus lore, fell for the same guy. Naturally, jealousy and drama followed, because what's college without a bit of chaos? The story takes a dark turn, with rumors of a triple act of harming themselves, and ever since, residents have sworn they've seen or felt the presence of these restless spirits. Some say they show up when roommates argue, acting like spectral peacekeepers. Think of them as ghostly mediators. Stop fighting over the thermostat, Karen, or we'll flicker the lights. Other students have reported random flickering lights, doors opening and closing on their own, and cold spots that make you think twice about walking down certain hallways alone. One resident swears a drawer slammed shut right in front of them while they were cleaning, followed by an eerie scream. It's the kind of story that makes you reconsider signing up for extra credit night shifts at the front desk. Then there's the tale of the mysterious fatherly figure that roams the E300S wing. Students describe a stern, protective presence, almost like an old-school chaperone who isn't thrilled with your late-night TikTok dance rehearsals. Some residents joke that he's the ghostly equivalent of an RA, minus the clipboard, but heavy on the judgmental vibes. Currier's ghost stories have become a favorite part of campus culture. Every Halloween, the building's legends are retold in whispers during late-night gatherings, sometimes with a little extra drama for effect. Whether it's a mysterious scream, a door with no number that supposedly hides a dark secret, or that cold chill that creeps up your spine when you're alone in the lounge, Currier delivers just the right mix of history and haunting to keep things lively. But beyond the ghostly lore, Currier is still a beloved residence hall. It's a place where students build lifelong friendships, cram for exams at 3 a.m., and occasionally freak out when they think they see something moving in the shadows. It's both a home and a haunted house, a unique combo that makes it an unforgettable part of the University of Iowa experience. So, if you're thinking about moving in, just remember, Currier Hall offers historic charm, modern amenities, and maybe a free paranormal roommate or two. Whether you're into history, ghosts, or just looking for a dorm with a story, this building has it all. Just don't forget to say goodnight to the ghostly trio on the 4th floor. You wouldn't want to make them mad. Wells College in Aurora, New York, has always had that small-town lakeside charm that feels like it belongs in a postcard, or maybe the opening scene of a supernatural thriller. Founded back in 1868 by Henry Wells, the same guy who brought us Wells Fargo and American Express, the college was created to empower women with higher education in a time when society thought home economics counted as calculus. Nestled right on the shores of Cayuga Lake, it grew into a proud liberal arts campus where students soaked up knowledge and maybe a little paranormal energy along the way. Of course, like all good stories, there was a little chaos early on. The original main building burned down in 1888, and while that would have been enough to scare most schools into calling it quits, Wells powered through. Students were scattered into makeshift classrooms around the village, professors carried on teaching, and the campus rebuilt itself brick by brick. It's almost like the flames just woke something up. Like the land whispered, "Oh, you want history? Here's a little mystery too." Ask anyone who's spent a semester on campus, and they'll tell you, Wells isn't just home to academics, it's also crawling with ghost stories. Some say there are 9 main spirits, though that number's debatable. Kind of like when you only have one slice of pizza, but there's clearly 5 missing. There's the tragic tale of a student allegedly stabbed in Zabriskie Hall, a ghostly Mrs. Wells roaming Pettibone House with a knife in hand, and the ever-present Max, the security guard who died in a fire at Morgan Hall but never seemed to get the memo to clock out. Then there are the nurses, sweet, eternal nurses. During the 1918 influenza epidemic, the top floor of main building was used as an infirmary. Some students swear that, late at night, they can hear the gentle footsteps of nurses still doing their rounds. Imagine trying to cram for finals, and instead of caffeine keeping you awake, it's a phantom nurse tucking you in. Comforting? Sure. Creepy? Absolutely. And if you think the medical ghosts are something, just wait until you hear about the music. In Morgan Hall, students and security guards alike have reported hearing a piano start playing by itself. Sometimes the eerie melody is joined by the faint sound of a cello, like a ghostly duet. It's almost poetic, unless you're there alone and wondering if you should applaud or run for your life. Zabriskie Hall, on the other hand, is home to a far less soothing tale. Legend says a professor killed a student over research, and now her spirit roams the halls. People have heard papers rustling and doors slamming as if she's still grading assignments from beyond the grave. Meanwhile, Mrs. Wells is said to haunt Pettibone House, stalking the rooms with kitchen cutlery, eternally searching for her husband's rumored mistress. Ghostly drama at its finest. Then there's Max, the most dedicated handyman you'll ever meet, living or dead. His ghost reportedly tinkers around Morgan Hall, adjusting locks, checking windows, and sometimes just looming in the corner like he's supervising. Students have joked that Max is more reliable than the Wi-Fi, which says a lot. The story of the Red Door at Wells College is one of those campus legends that clings to the walls like a stubborn chill off Cayuga Lake. It dates back to the devastating influenza epidemic of 1918, when the college found itself in the middle of unimaginable tragedy. As students fell ill and the campus struggled to keep up, a room on the 4th floor of the main building was turned into a makeshift morgue. To make sure no one accidentally wandered in, the door to that room was painted a stark, unmistakable red. It wasn't decoration. It was a warning. When the epidemic finally passed and the bodies were removed, the college tried to erase the painful reminder. The door was repainted over and over, as though burying the memories under layers of fresh color could erase what happened inside. But every time, the same thing happened. The red bled through the new paint. No matter how many coats they applied, that eerie crimson would find its way back to the surface, as if the door itself refused to let the world forget what it had witnessed. Students whispered that the door was cursed, marked forever by the grief of the epidemic. Some swore that if you stood near it late at night, you could hear the faint shuffling of feet, the soft coughs of the sick, and the quiet, comforting voices of nurses trying to ease their suffering. Others claimed the air by the door was always colder, like the very walls carried a memory of loss. As the years went by and the main building was remodeled, the infamous red door disappeared, at least physically. But the story didn't. It passed from one class to the next, told in hushed tones during late-night study sessions or over coffee when new students asked about the campus ghosts. Upperclassmen always leaned in dramatically, lowering their voices to a whisper as they warned, "Some things just don't stay buried at Wells." Even after the college closed, the legend of the Red Door lingered, woven into the tapestry of Wells' haunted history. The story still gives chills to anyone who hears it, a reminder that paint can cover wood, but it can't cover the memories or the spirits that refuse to be forgotten. Even after the college closed its doors in 2024, the legacy and the ghosts remain. The historic district, with its beautiful buildings and lakeside views, still draws visitors who swear they feel a chill when they walk through Zabriskie or past Pettibone. Maybe it's the lake breeze, or maybe it's the spirits of students, nurses, and Max hanging around to make sure Wells College is never forgotten. Ohio State University isn't just home to Buckeye football and endless scarlet and gray gear. It's also crawling with ghosts that just won't move out. Students have whispered about strange happenings for decades, and honestly, it's hard not to believe them once you hear the stories. From creepy basements to mysterious tunnels, OSU has all the makings of a paranormal theme park, minus the overpriced snacks. Well, unless you count the campus dining hall. Take Thompson Library, for example. Down in the basement stacks, students report hearing phantom footsteps and books rustling when no one's around. The legend says it's the spirit of a librarian who loved her job a little too much and just never clocked out. If you ever feel like someone's watching you while you're cramming for finals at 3 a.m., don't worry. It's probably her, silently judging your research skills and your lack of MLA formatting. Mirror Lake is where the real show begins. On quiet nights, a ghostly woman is said to glide across the frozen surface, her old-fashioned dress trailing behind her. Sometimes she's wearing white, sometimes pink, but always fabulous. Students swear they've seen her while walking home from a late-night party, which means either the stories are true or college kids have terrible night vision. Either way, she's the most fashionable ice skater this side of Columbus. Then there's Oxley Hall, the first women's residence built on campus. Rumor has it that a girl died there in the early 1900s, and she's still hanging out on the third floor. Every December 17th, her lights flicker on and off like she's throwing a tiny ghost rave. Some say former President William Oxley Thompson also lingers around the building, probably still checking to make sure no one's breaking curfew. Imagine being an eternal hall monitor, brutal. And speaking of Mirror Lake, it seems one ghost wasn't enough. There are stories of not one, not two, but 3 spirits that haunt the area. One ghost skates on the water, another woman stares longingly from a nearby hall, and yet another, apparently the wife of a professor, haunts the shore. So, if you're ever out there alone and hear whispers, just remember, you've accidentally stumbled into a ghost family reunion. Things get even creepier when you venture into the tunnels beneath the medical center. There's a hallway that connects the emergency department to the psychiatric hospital and passes right by the morgue and autopsy center. Students call it one of the creepiest spots on campus, and honestly, they're not wrong. Walking through there at night feels like you're in the pilot episode of a low-budget horror show that definitely doesn't end well. Hopkins Hall adds its own eerie flair to the campus. Legend has it that years ago, a young woman got stuck in the elevator overnight and never recovered from the ordeal. She later died in a car accident, and now her spirit allegedly lingers near the building, leaving handprints on the concrete pillars outside. No matter how many times the university paints over them, the prints come back, like the ghostly version of an unsolvable prank. OSU embraces its haunted history so much that there are even ghost tours and student groups that hunt for paranormal activity around campus. Whether you're walking to class, studying in the library, or just trying to grab a coffee, you might be sharing the space with something or someone from another time. So if you ever feel a chill in the air or hear a faint whisper in an empty room, just smile and say, "OH," because you know the ghost will finish it with a hearty "I-O." Kansas State University might look like an ordinary college campus during the day, full of students rushing to class and cats lounging in the sun. But when the sun sets, the stories start to surface. Students whisper about a mischievous ghost named Nick, who supposedly haunts the old Purple Mask Theater in the East Stadium. According to legend, Nick was a football player who suffered a fatal injury during a game. Ever since, people have claimed to hear the sound of cleats stomping across the stage, lights flicking off without warning, and even furniture mysteriously moving around the room. Some swear they've recorded ghostly voices, while others have seen tools and paint cans knocked over as if by invisible hands. It's the kind of story that makes you second-guess every creak in an empty theater. There's another eerie tale about a man in a Confederate uniform who sometimes appears in the same area. Students and staff claim to have seen him sitting quietly in what seems to be a phantom chair, like he's been waiting decades for someone to notice him. No one knows why he's there or what he wants, but the sightings have been consistent enough that even the skeptics avoid the area alone at night. Imagine rehearsing lines for a play and suddenly realizing you have a silent audience member from the 1800s. Then there's the ghost known as Duncan, tied to the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity house. The story goes that Duncan died after a hazing ritual went horribly wrong, and instead of leaving, he stuck around to watch over the place. New pledges talk about feeling an unseen presence during initiation, and some even claim books have flown off shelves or lights have flickered when they mention his name. Despite the creepy factor, a lot of brothers actually see him as a protective spirit, just one that likes to spook people for fun every now and then. A similar story floats around the Pi Kappa Phi fraternity house, where another version of Duncan supposedly roams the halls. Depending on who you talk to, Duncan either appears as a shadow moving through the house or as a figure glimpsed out of the corner of the eye. It's just enough to make you wonder if Fraternity Row has its own personal ghost population, with a membership list longer than the yearbook. The Gamma Phi Beta sorority house has its own bizarre tale. Legend has it that whenever someone cooks chicken nuggets, disembodied screams echo through the house. Some say the ghost belongs to a former house mother who was tragically killed by the cook in some long-forgotten altercation. Whether it's true or not, you can bet the sisters think twice before firing up the air fryer at midnight, because no one wants to hear a banshee shriek during nugget night. Not all the hauntings are terrifying. In Eisenhower Hall, students joke about the radiator ghost. It's not exactly paranormal, but the old pipes bang and clang in ways that make you feel like something otherworldly is living in the heating system. Over the years, the joke turned into a legend, and now the banging isn't just old infrastructure. It's a quirky, noisy ghost who just can't resist making its presence known during lectures. What makes Kansas State's ghost stories so fascinating is how deeply woven they are into campus life. Students pass them down from one generation to the next, adding new twists with each retelling. Whether it's the theater ghost playing tricks, the watchful Duncan, or even the haunted nuggets in the sorority kitchen, these stories make the campus feel alive. Well, undead, at least. They blur the line between reality and folklore in a way that keeps everyone just a little on edge. Even if you don't believe in ghosts, it's hard not to get caught up in the lore. Walking across the quiet campus at night, you can almost imagine Nick pacing the stage, or Duncan leaning casually against the fraternity stairs, keeping an eye on his house. Kansas State University might be known for its academics and sports, but after dark, it's the spirits that truly run the show. The University of Notre Dame is more than just touchdown Jesus, golden helmets, and that one friend who won't stop talking about their study abroad in Ireland. It's also home to some seriously creepy ghost stories that make you wonder if even the Fighting Irish can fight the supernatural. Gather around, because we're going deep into the eerie halls, dark basements, and shadowy corners of Notre Dame, where the living and the dead apparently share the same campus tour. First up, Washington Hall, the theater where dreams and apparitions come to life. Students have reported hearing footsteps in the empty building late at night, doors opening and slamming shut on their own, and the unmistakable sound of a trumpet playing when nobody is around. Some say it's the ghost of George Gipper Gipp, Notre Dame's first All-American football player. Legend has it he wanders the building, maybe still trying to give motivational speeches, or just looking for someone to throw him a decent pass. Then there's the library, which, like every good academic haunt, is allegedly filled with whispers and floating shadows. Students cramming for finals have reported books falling from shelves for no reason, cold spots that freeze your coffee faster than a South Bend winter, and eerie whispers that tell them to study harder. Some joke that it's just the ghost of a stressed-out student who didn't make it through finals week, but others aren't so sure. Either way, if you see a book floating your way, just take it. The ghost probably knows the exam questions. Dillon Hall brings its own brand of weird. Residents claim that lights flicker mysteriously and strange banging noises echo through the halls in the dead of night. One legend says a student once saw an apparition sitting at the end of his bed, staring at him silently, before vanishing. Naturally, the kid didn't sleep in his room for the rest of the semester and conveniently studied abroad the next year. Can't blame him. Ghosts don't pay tuition, but they sure make themselves comfortable. And of course, no haunted college story is complete without a haunted chapel. The Basilica of the Sacred Heart is breathtakingly beautiful by day, but at night, some claim to hear disembodied voices singing hymns or the soft shuffle of footsteps along the pews. A janitor once reported seeing a shadowy figure kneeling in prayer, only for it to disappear when he turned the lights on. Creepy? Absolutely. But hey, if you're going to have a ghost hanging around, a praying one is probably your safest bet. The lakes on campus, St. Mary's and St. Joseph's, have their own dark tales too. Legend has it that during foggy mornings, a ghostly woman in white appears near the water, her figure barely visible through the mist. Some say she's mourning a lost love. Others think she's just trying to find the Wi-Fi signal that never reaches that part of campus. Either way, students on early morning jogs have been known to take the long way, just to avoid her. Then there's the legend of the basement tunnels. Like most universities with old buildings, Notre Dame has a network of underground tunnels, and, you guessed it, they're haunted. Maintenance workers have reported hearing footsteps echoing in empty corridors and feeling like they're being watched. One worker swears a toolbox was nudged toward him by invisible hands, which is either supernatural mischief or a really aggressive safety reminder. And let's not forget the grotto, the iconic prayer site on campus. By day, it's a place of peace and reflection. But at night, students say they've felt cold chills, seen flickering lights with no source, and even spotted ghostly figures standing silently among the candles. Some believe it's the spirits of students past, still offering prayers, or maybe just waiting for someone to bring them a coffee from the student center. So whether you're a die-hard Notre Dame fan or just someone who loves a good ghost story. The campus is packed with eerie tales that blend history, legend, and a whole lot of goosebumps. Next time you're visiting South Bend, keep an eye out. If you hear a trumpet in an empty building or feel a cold breeze in the basilica, just smile and say, "Go Irish." You never know who or what is listening. Kenyon College, tucked away in the quiet little town of Gambier, Ohio, looks like the perfect postcard of academia. With its Gothic-style buildings, endless green lawns, and that one kid who insists on playing acoustic guitar on the quad, you wouldn't expect it to be crawling with ghosts. But this charming liberal arts college has more spirits floating around than a frat house on a Saturday night. Except these spirits don't come in red Solo cups. Take the story of the old Schaffer Pool, affectionately known as the Greenhouse because of its glass roof. Legend has it that a diver bounced too high on the springboard, smacked into the roof, and tragically died. Sounds like a horror movie setup, right? Except there's zero historical record of that ever happening. Still, the legend stuck harder than duct tape in a dorm room. Now that the pool's been turned into a dance studio, students swear they've seen wet footprints appear out of nowhere and heard the phantom sound of a diving board bouncing 3 times. Nothing says creepy, quite like trying to nail a pirouette while Casper does cannonballs in the corner. The strangeness didn't stop there. Even years after the conversion to a studio, people kept reporting bizarre water puddles appearing overnight and phantom splashing sounds. Safety officers claimed they'd investigate the empty space and hear dripping water, footsteps, and locker doors creaking open. Imagine trying to practice your dance routine and suddenly hearing a ghostly Marco with no polo in sight. Then there's Hill Theater, which is basically Broadway for ghosts. Theater students have reported lights unscrewing themselves, curtains moving like they're possessed, and shadowy figures darting across the stage. One lighting tech swore they saw the shadow of a hand move across the spotlight while they were alone, which is a great way to make a tech rehearsal turn into a sprint for the exit. Ghosts may be dramatic, but at least they know their lighting cues. The most infamous spirit on campus is Stuart Lathrop Pearson, Stewie to the locals. Back in the early 1900s, during a fraternity initiation, Stewie died tragically by the railroad tracks. Now, every year, the fraternity brothers carry a coffin filled with stones across Middle Path in a dramatic ritual involving torches, reading the coroner's report, and tossing ashes into the river. Whether it's to honor his memory or keep him from haunting their keggers, nobody knows. But if you hear random chanting at night, you might want to walk a little faster. Capel's Residence Hall has its own horror reel. The story goes that a student messed with the elevator, tried to jump between floors, and tragically fell to his death. Ever since, residents report lights flickering, showers turning on by themselves, and elevators that seem to have minds of their own. One poor safety officer responded to a series of mysterious calls from the building, only to find the elevator empty and the phones mysteriously silent. If that doesn't make you take the stairs forever, nothing will. Campus tours wouldn't be complete without a trip past the so-called gates of hell. Throw in the ghost of the college's founder, Bishop Philander Chase, who's been spotted in the Church of the Holy Spirit, and you've got yourself a paranormal travel brochure. One group swears the lights dimmed during a ghost tour right as the story of the bishop's ghost was being told. Coincidence? Sure. But it's a lot more fun to blame the bishop. In the end, Kenyon's haunted history is less about fear and more about tradition. Whether you believe in the ghosts or just enjoy the campfire tales, the stories have been passed down through generations of students like a well-loved textbook. So, the next time you're wandering the campus at night and you feel a chill on Middle Path or hear unexplained footsteps in an empty hall, don't panic. It's probably just a ghost checking to see if you did your homework. Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania isn't just another small liberal arts school. It's practically a supernatural theme park with tuition. Founded back in 1832, this campus has more history than your grandma's attic, and thanks to the Civil War battle that raged right on its doorstep, it's also crawling with ghostly roommates you didn't ask for. You could be grabbing coffee on your way to class, and boom, there's a phantom soldier tipping his cap, probably judging your caffeine order. Students love to joke that ghosts are the unofficial mascots. The dorms have more paranormal activity than a reality TV show. Pennsylvania Hall, lovingly nicknamed Old Dorm, was once a field hospital during the Battle of Gettysburg. So it's not unusual for people to report seeing soldiers marching through hallways, nurses tending to invisible patients, or hearing the moans of the wounded in the middle of the night. Forget late-night parties. The real after-hours action is with the dearly departed. Walk across campus, and you'll hear the legends spill out like gossip during finals week. There are stories of ghostly drums echoing from the battlefield, phantom footsteps in empty classrooms, and spectral figures lurking in stairwells. Even the bravest students admit to bolting out of basements when the air gets cold and whispers start floating around. Imagine explaining to your professor that your homework is late because you had to sprint away from a ghost. Probably still a better excuse than the Wi-Fi was down. Being built right next to one of the most famous battlefields in the country means the college can't escape its haunted history. Every corner of the campus has a story. It's said you can sometimes see entire regiments marching at night, their ghostly bayonets glinting in the moonlight. Of course, some students just shrug it off, until they're the ones hearing phantom cannon fire while trying to write a paper at 2 a.m. Talk about a loud neighbor. What makes Gettysburg College the #1 haunted campus is how deeply the paranormal is woven into everyday life. Other schools might have a spooky rumor or two, but Gettysburg students swap ghost stories like their class notes. You can't make it through a semester without someone casually mentioning, "Oh yeah, the elevator doors opened on their own again." Or, "The lights flickered right when I walked past the battlefield." It's so common that haunted basically counts as part of the campus culture. And while you're dodging ghosts, don't forget the academics. The professors here are top-notch, and the programs are challenging, especially when you're trying to concentrate while something invisible is tapping on your shoulder. It's the only college where you might need holy water and a stack of flashcards to survive finals week. There's nothing like writing a Civil War research paper with the distinct feeling that someone from 1863 is looking over your shoulder going, "That's not how it happened." Tradition runs deep here, too. Every fall, new students participate in the first-year walk, retracing the steps of students who marched to hear Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. It's a moving ceremony, but when you do it at dusk and hear the faint sound of marching boots in the distance, it turns into something out of a paranormal documentary. Nothing says, "Welcome to college," like wondering if you're walking next to a freshman from 160 years ago. Gettysburg College has it all: history, academics, and ghosts that refuse to graduate. It's not just haunted, it's a masterclass in spooky ambiance. If you're looking for a college experience where your roommate might be a sophomore or a soldier from 1863, this is the place for you. Other schools might brag about their football teams or dining halls, but Gettysburg gets to say, "Yeah, but do you have Civil War generals haunting your library?" And that's why this campus will always be #1 in spirit, literally. There's one story from Gettysburg College that is so legendary it could be its own horror movie. It happened in Pennsylvania Hall, Old Dorm, to the students, a building that played a huge role during the Battle of Gettysburg. Back in 1863, it was turned into a makeshift field hospital. Wounded soldiers were everywhere, bleeding, screaming, praying. Fast forward a century or so, and the students of the modern era got a terrifying reminder that some memories just don't fade. Two administrators were leaving their offices late one night. They stepped into the elevator, chatting about whatever boring administrative stuff people in suits talk about. Probably parking passes or budget meetings. The elevator started its normal ride down, until it didn't. When the doors slid open, they weren't greeted by the quiet basement or the hum of fluorescent lights. Instead, they were standing in the middle of 1863. The scene was chaos. The basement had transformed into a full-blown Civil War hospital. The floors were slick with blood, soldiers were writhing and moaning in pain, and exhausted nurses darted around with bandages and buckets of water. The smell of iron and smoke filled the air. One nurse even looked right at them, as if to say, "Well, don't just stand there, grab a bandage." Frozen in shock, the two just stood there, eyes wide, mouths open, and absolutely no idea what to do. This wasn't a ghostly shadow or a flickering light. This was like stepping into a time warp. One of them, finally realizing this was way above their pay grade, slammed the close door button like they were trying to break it. The elevator jolted, the doors closed, and when they reopened, everything was back to normal. Just an empty basement, quiet and still. Needless to say, they didn't stick around to investigate. They bolted out of that elevator and didn't look back until they were safely outside. Can you blame them? Imagine thinking you're headed to the parking lot and instead ending up smack in the middle of a battlefield triage center. What makes this story so chilling is how vivid the details were. They described seeing the blood, the bandages, even the glint of lantern light reflecting off the sweat on soldiers' faces. It wasn't just an apparition. It was like the veil between then and now had been ripped wide open for a few seconds. To this day, people refuse to take that elevator alone at night. Students joke about it, but everyone knows someone who's had an odd experience in that building. If you ever visit Pennsylvania Hall, you'll notice that the basement feels different. The air is heavier, colder, and quiet in a way that makes your skin crawl. Whether it was a time slip, a replay of history, or just Gettysburg's way of reminding people of what happened on that ground, one thing is certain. The ghosts in Pennsylvania Hall aren't just hanging around to spook you, they want you to remember. And there you have it, the top 10 most haunted colleges in the U.S. From libraries where books fall off shelves on their own to dorm rooms where invisible roommates refuse to pay rent, these campuses prove that higher education isn't the only thing creeping around after dark. College football may have its wild moments, the nail-biter overtime wins, the heartbreaking losses, and the fans who swear the refs are legally blind. But let's be real. None of that compares to seeing a ghost glide past you on the way to your 8 a.m. biology class. At least a bad ref won't follow you back to your dorm room. Probably. So, the next time you're on campus and you feel a sudden chill or hear unexplained footsteps behind you, don't panic. It's probably just the ghost of a stressed-out student who failed their chemistry final in 1912 and never left. Or maybe it's just Steve from down the hall. He's weird like that. If you're thinking about enrolling in one of these colleges, good luck. Pack some sage, holy water, and maybe a roommate who's not easily scared. And if you're already a student at one of these haunted halls, well, congrats. You're living in a real-life horror movie. But hey, that's enough ghost stories for now. It's time to grab some wings, root for your team, and pray your Wi-Fi doesn't cut out right before kickoff. Now it's your turn. What haunted college would you have put on this list? Did we miss your alma mater, or do you have a spooky story about a campus that should have made the cut? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear all about it. Until next time, stay spooky, stay safe, and remember, college is temporary, but ghost stories are forever.